Hi, grade 9. So this is our last cycle lesson. So we're going to be looking at the nitrogen cycle and how nitrogen is recycled in the environment, essentially. Okay, so you should have your notebook in front of you and the handout for this lesson as well. Okay, so first of all, I want you to list the 4 stages of the water cycle and then describe the process of transpiration. So pause the video and take a couple minutes to do that. Okay, so the 4 stages, we have transpiration, evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. Okay, and then the process of transpiration is basically the evaporation of water from leaves in the plants. Okay, so looking at nitrogen, basically nitrogen is a chemical element, which we know it is found within a plant in different compounds. So those compounds might be DNA, amino acids, and proteins. So very important compounds to kind of the functioning and growth of a plant. And then we have nitrates. So this is basically a chemical compound containing nitrogen and oxygen, and that helps to keep plants healthy. Okay, so nitrates contain nitrogen. Nitrogen is used to form amino acids. Amino acids are used to make proteins, and then proteins are needed for growth. Okay, so all those kind of 4 steps. So without it, the plant wouldn't grow very well. Okay, so quick quiz here. So choose the correct term to complete each sentence. So the first one, the nitrates contain oxygen, carbon, or nitrogen. Which of those 2? Okay, they obviously contain nitrogen. Second one, nitrogen is used to form amino acids or starch. Okay, so it's used to form amino acids. And then amino acids are used to form proteins or lipids. Okay, they're used to form proteins. And then those proteins help with growth. Okay, so the first couple questions on your sheet. So state the names of the compounds in a plant which contain the chemical element nitrogen, and then explain why plants grow better in soil grown at a higher nitrate concentration. But that is worth 4 marks, so make sure you have 4 pieces of information written down. Okay, so you can pause the video, take a couple minutes to do that. Okay, so the first one, we know it's found in DNA, amino acids, and proteins, and we know that amino acids make up the proteins. Okay, and then the second one, nitrates contain nitrogen. Nitrogen is used to form DNA and amino acids. Amino acids are used to make proteins. Proteins are needed for growth. Okay, so those 4 things will get you your 4 marks. Okay, and then we have another practice question here. So deduce or just determine which plant was grown in a soil with low nitrate concentration and justify your choice. So A or B, and explain how you know. Okay, so 1 mark for saying which plant, the other mark for your explanation. So you can pause the video and take a minute to do that. Okay, so plant B obviously is the plant grown with low nitrates because it shows poor or little growth, which you can see here. Okay, so now actually starting it with the nitrogen cycle. So basically it's a sequence of processes by which nitrogen moves from the atmosphere through living and dead organisms into the soil and the atmosphere. Okay, and it requires bacteria, which we'll talk about the different types of bacteria in a second, but they're basically responsible for either producing or absorbing the nitrogen. Okay, so the first type of bacteria we have is nitrogen-fixing bacteria, which is found on legumes. So legumes, for example, like peas, beans, peanuts, chickpeas. Okay, so they're grown in nodules on plant roots in the soil, which are these things here. So just kind of little containers, essentially. Okay, and these convert nitrogen gas into nitrates, and then we know that the nitrates create proteins. Okay, so nitrogen gas is one of the most prominent gases in our air. However, plants can't just use it directly. So even though they're in an environment with lots of nitrogen, they can't use it directly. So nitrogen-fixing bacteria basically turns the nitrogen into a useful form for the plant to use. Okay, then we have decomposers, which are some bacteria and fungi are decomposers. They're found in soil, and then they basically break down dead plants and animals, which contain nitrogen. Okay, and then it converts proteins and urea into ammonia. Again, urea is just a waste product in plants and animals, and it turns it into ammonia, which is NH3. Okay, so again, just another form of nitrogen. Okay, the next type of bacteria we have is nitrifying bacteria. These are found in soil, and they convert ammonia into nitrates. Because again, ammonia, not something that can be used by the plants, so it converts it into nitrates, which can be used by the plants. And then our last type of bacteria is denitrifying bacteria. So that's found in the soil, converts nitrates into nitrogen gas. So it's basically converting nitrogen into a form that can't be used. Okay, so those are our 4 types of bacteria. So nitrogen fixing, decomposers, nitrifying, and denitrifying. Okay, and then there's a summary here. So where they're found and what they do. So you can use your notes to fill that in for each of those 4 different types of bacteria. Okay, so the first one found in nodules on the plant roots, and then it converts nitrogen gas into nitrates. Decomposers found in soil, converts proteins and urea into ammonia. Nitrifying, found in soil, convert ammonia into nitrates. And then the last one, denitrifying, again, found in soil, and then convert nitrates into nitrogen gas. So filling in that summary. Okay, so a quick quiz here. What do nitrogen fixing bacteria do? So A or B? Okay, so that would be A. They convert nitrogen gas into nitrates so that it can be used. The second one, nitrifying bacteria. So convert proteins and urea into ammonia, or convert nitrates in the soil into nitrogen gas, or convert ammonia into nitrates. Okay, so that would be the last one. They're turning ammonia into a useful form of nitrogen. And then the last one, denitrifying bacteria. So which of those is the correct description of denitrifying bacteria? Okay, so that would be this one here, convert nitrates into nitrogen gas, which is not useful for the plants. Okay, so a couple more practice questions here. Again, all worth 1 mark. You're just listing the type of bacteria for the first 2, and then the second one, just what type of compounds are used and so on. Okay, so taking a minute, 1 mark and 1 word for each of those answers. Okay, so bacteria responsible for releasing nitrogen in the soil back into the atmosphere is nitrifying or denitrifying, because we know it converts nitrates into nitrogen gas, which goes into the atmosphere. Ammonia from dead plants and animals into nitrates. So ammonia into nitrates is nitrifying. Okay, so it turns it into a useful form. Urea and waste are decomposed into what compound? So that would be ammonia, and then the last one, nitrogen, is used to make in plants and animals that help us, grow strong. What would that be? Okay, so that would be proteins. Okay, so all this work worth 1 mark. Okay, and then there's another practice question similar to what we had with our carbon cycle. So looking at the image, you're going to name the processes A, B, C, and D. So A here, B, C, and D. Okay, and seeing what type of bacteria it would be. Okay, so for A, that would be decomposers, because it's in the soil and so on. Sorry, that should be nitrogen fixing. I just did the wrong one. Okay, and you can see that that's happening here in the root nodules and so on. Okay, then we have decomposers. Then we have for C, nitrifying, and then we would have denitrifying because it's entering the atmosphere. Again, this is just kind of a harder application question, so if that's a bit confusing, don't worry too much about it, but just have a look at those different steps and see what's going on. Okay, so again, that's our last cycle, so you should have all those notes written down, and just make sure you do have all the answers to the questions in your notes.